So, John Lewis, once again, I would argue that you might be one of the more sought after people right now
I
in
don't.
this whole community. I feel like you are the voice of reason in these unreasonable times. Um, Overall, always a pleasure. A voice for radio and a face that's not too bad. John, how are you today?
I'm doing good, and I want to point out this. This was not planned here, but we are, follow those battle hawks. But all is good, man. It's an exciting time. We're getting closer to end of the season with the NFL and UFL kickoff here in not too long. It's a lot of fun stuff to talk about right now.
100%. And I don't know if you saw, but there's been two big air quote big UFL leaks. Is that Destroying will finally be showing his presence
All right.
um, on ESPN. I probably won't watch that because honestly, I don't care enough about the man, and I will not validate his existence. And two, obviously futures deals are coming out, the schedule's coming out. You did a bang up job with the Marcast going over that. But overall, it's once again getting a little bit more real for everything.
It is. I mean, it's starting to really kind of come together. If you'll, remember this time last year, we knew that there was going to be a UFL. We knew what the teams were, but we just didn't know what that was going to look like. I think the first year to me was a success. I think there were some marks that they have to hit and maybe exceed this coming year. But overall, man, it's an exciting time, like you said, and I think there's a lot to be optimistic when it comes to the UFL right now.
Well, something to be pretty optimistic about, and you define what success was. So you know me, I'm a big money guy, um, big into the analytics, big
Yep.
into the numbers to define success. Now, some people define success as are they profitable entity? Did they finish a season? Um, but how do we actually measure the true success? Because I don't think this league will be profitable until they get the league itself is unburdened by financial costs. I
Uh,
thought up of a crazy circumstance where if you make over $10 million from the NFL, you have to give a kickback. What is that kickback? I don't know. I don't think it should be, $1 million. I think that's outrageous. A UFL tax would probably be what it was called, but maybe like a 1-2% of earnings. I don't know what that looks like, but I do think it's an injection for extra funding that could, if you spice it up a lot, it could lead to possibly maybe some sort of ownership stake in one of these companies. The problem is there's 4 different companies that own it. It seems like it's Redbird Capital, Fox Sports, Garcia Co., and then Brahma Alpha Omega Industries, right? But
right.
am I crazy on that, John?
I like that. It's kind of tithes and offerings to the people who kind of brought you there, and I think that's actually a really good idea. Now, will the players go for it? Will the NFLPA go for it? I don't know, but I do like that idea, and I think that's workable. You know, because what we're going to talk about here, we're going to talk about what the players, what the UFL, how it helped these players get to, I don't want to say the next level, but it's a tier up. There's no question. I don't like calling the UFL minor league. I think it's professional football. It's just, it might be a lower tier, but I mean, what the UFL has done for a lot of these players, and we're going to talk about it, it's made them millionaires. And I mean, it seems like you would want, if you care about the game as a player, that you would want to continue this thing going.
And it's funny you mentioned the millionaire metric because I've kept track of a lot of these financials, and it's at this point right now, going back to 2019, it's over 40 people that are now air quote technically $1 million earners
Yeah.
from spring football, going back to the UFL. And I made a tweet recently, put this out there, that in the AAF they've earned about $13.5 million, those players, and we'll touch on those players, which that number actually has gone up. The XFL from 2020 is just a shade under $12 million earned. The USFL class of 25 is about 4.6 million. The XFL class of 23 is about 4 million. The USFL class from 23 is 4.8, and then the UFL class is 6.7 million, which rough math about that is almost $30 million in earnings from spring football players. with this year being a high water mark of 25 players being on the roster, and that doesn't include earnings from injury settlements like guys like Marcus Sims and
Right.
Sage Surratt. So I view that as a success.
100%. I'm with you on that. Um, I saw one metric here, or not well, it was a stat, and you are the guy who's going to know this, but I saw that there was it 19% of UFL players from 2024 had signed with teams, whether that's practice squad, whether that's active or not. It is a league of opportunity. I'm not here to shill for the UFL. It has its problems. I mean, I'm a fan. It's obvious, we're both fans because we talk about it a lot. But it is a league of opportunity, and I think what we're seeing a lot of this opportunity right now. And back to your point, why, if you are a player and you care about the game and you want to see more players come from, have better opportunities, why not kick back to that league? And, I know it's owned by a couple of multi-billion-dollar companies, but, keep it going. They don't want to lose money.
Yeah. And also, you don't know if you need that league in the future. Like, do you have to come
Right.
back? Like, do
Yeah.
you want to get started in coaching? And do you want to, maybe be an OC? Like, I know Michael Vick just got a job. I forget which HBCU he was at, but before that, he was going to be the OC of the Atlanta Legends. And I think
Right.
he was for about 37 minutes, which
Right.
still a professional job,
Yeah.
professional offensive coordinator. The real iffy thing now is coming in to play, and it's ironic that Schmidt is on there first.
Yeah.
But what is your opinion on futures deals for these NFL guys or these UFL NFL guys?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. If you're an NFL team, you want to sign these guys and keep them around. You know more about the contracts than I do. If you sign a futures deal, does that mean that that's it? You can't go anywhere else?
Yeah, you are employed by that NFL
Right.
team
Okay.
for until you are not. You're not getting
Yeah.
paid. So what you'll see is with a lot of guys who sign futures deals, if they want you around, if they think you're a fringe guy, they will elevate you on from the practice squad. I think you'll make about 52, 53K for that game, even if you don't play, but they'll elevate you, and that's kind of your roster bonus because I don't think these guys get futures deals bonus. And that will hopefully, and I'm not judging anyone's finances, but if you go from making $0 to 216, which is what a practice squad
Right.
salary is, hopefully you understand budgeting enough to where you can make that 53K stretch for about 6 months. And then once you get back in the camp and rookie mini camp, between your stipends and hopefully if you make a roster or practice squad, you're able to float yourself financially. Unless you're doing coaching on the side, which a lot of these back end roster guys do.
Yeah, it's funny seeing some of the some of the second, I guess it's maybe their main jobs, but yeah. Yeah, I'm okay with that to a point. It does feel like if you're not on the team, you're not active, you're not on a roster of any kind, that's a little tough for me to say, well, it feels like I'm property of someone if I'm a player. But I get it to a point because you think about it, the as you mentioned, with just to get on a practice squad or on that active roster where you could probably you're going to get a bump in pay. There's so much opportunity there that if you're a player, you want to take advantage of. So I think it's a double-edged sword in some ways because there are a lot of players that I felt they benefited from the UFL and they go up to the NFL and maybe it doesn't work out there. As you know, there are a lot of situations that have to be just right for you to, make that active roster, whether it's personnel or coaching or whatever it is. I think Alex Magoo is a guy who found out, well, it's not going to work out for me as a quarterback, so I'm going to switch to wide receiver, and he's on a practice squad now. So there are some decisions to be made there, but overall, that's a long way of me saying, like, I think I'm okay with futures deals.
Yeah, and you don't know the conversation that specifically Andre Schmidt had.
Right.
He was in that room for a week, made about 13 grand. You figure that into his 63 or 60 grand from the UFL. He's a 73 grand earner now. What's kind of his deal as far as like, as you can see, he goes 19 of 21, long
Yeah.
of 61.
Right.
He's proven himself on some level. the only thing he could do now is hurt himself, in my
Yeah.
opinion, because I hate to say this, I love kickers. At one point, this is a kicker podcast with all the kickers I had come on,
Right.
but they are kind of a very accessible commodity. I mean, multiple teams this year in the NFL had 6 kickers coming through, but
Oh, sure.
Schmitz, was released after that 1 week, was on the practice squad. Um, Obviously, Hopkins was not the guy as much as everyone wanted to be. He's got a 3-year contract there. Schmitz is in a good position for them to go at a cheaper rate and bring him in, put him at competition. I think that's kind of what he's thinking as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's opportunities for kickers, and you're right. I mean, how many times have we seen a kicker, as they say, signed off the street? They like to, talk about Jake Bates, who we knew from the UFL was a talented kicker, but sometimes the story is he was a brick salesman, and and it's like, there he is. There's such good stories here, but you're right. Kickers are a known commodity, and I'm with you. Kickers are people too. I love kickers, but you're right. They tend to get signed off the street more than a lot of other skill positions might.
Especially a guy like Bates, who
Yeah.
was a kickoff specialist before he actually went into this whole journey and whatnot. But Bates is my first guy that we get to cover as far as the class of 24. 26 of 29, 64 of 67, long of 58. It's not so easy in the NFL when they get a little bit more of a rush, but overall, the rule has always been if your kicker makes less than 80%, you have somebody else's kicker. And for the Detroit Lions, they don't have somebody else's kicker.
Yeah.
They have a kicker.
Yeah. He, a lot of people love the story of him coming in and then what they saw that he could do. I mean, this guy, he might be kicking in the Super Bowl. I can say, I believe I saw in person his final missed kick of in the UFL. I was at the Birmingham regular season finale, but that it was a rarity in the UFL, and it's been a rarity in the NFL. So yeah, he's a guy I think we might be seeing in the Super Bowl.
The next guy kind of on this list was actually one of my favorites with Dondre Tillman, because he was a 3-year process guy, winning from a Division II school, University of Indiana of Pennsylvania. I don't know how these Indiana universities work. They just throw a name in there and then they'll be like, oh yeah, in Nebraska. But a very solid season, 23 tackles, 5 sacks, and he's on a playoff team. John, what do you think about the level of caliber of defensive linemen? Because I know we lose our mind about specialists, but defensive linemen has been the spot for a lot of these guys that become successful.
Defensive linemen and long snappers,
yes,
they are absolutely valuable. And and Tillman's story is great too. You're right. You want to talk about a grind. I mean, the guy goes, D2, stays in the USFL and UFL, and then like you said, he's on a playoff team. That's why I continue. The stories are going to be, yes, the Jake Bates and the Kevontae Turpins and the Brandon Aubers, and rightfully so. Those are a lot of the players that the casual fan or even just a regular NFL fan is going to know. But when you start to look at a lot of, and you're going to look at them, and when you start to look at the defensive linemen and the long snappers and the offensive linemen who have come from the UFL, and they're valuable pieces. They're not just camp bodies. They don't just, they're not on the practice squad. These are guys who are making a difference for their team. And you're right. Tillman's a guy who's in the playoffs now. And, and he's fun to watch too. I mean, this guy, big guy, but he's quick.
Physical, extremely physical, understands how to use his hands, and honestly doesn't take a snap off. And granted, with that Broncos defensive line, I think it's easy not to take a snap off because they rotate pretty well. But that puts into this guy next, man. Jalen Redmond, another playoff guy, was one of the only ones to make the active roster, released, practice squad, then finds himself a nice spot here. And, it seems like every day I'm watching him, especially with the Vikings being on a little bit more prime time, and we'll get one more opportunity. Redmond's another guy who I think is put himself in a very nice position to make a lot of money and make a lot of plays in the upcoming years.
Well, and he showed his value too. It's been,
Yeah.
active roster, practice squad, and then they're not afraid to bring it back to the active roster because they know what they have there. So what you see there with the, 17 tackles, he's got a sack. That's a small body of work, but he has been able to, I think, bring value to that team. And, he can do a lot of things. Again, here's a guy, a tackle that came from Arlington and now he's in the playoffs. Pretty cool.
100%. Long snapper,
Yeah,
Rex Sonahara, finally.
Right. And again, I love the stories of it. Now there's a guy who I think he's from the Cleveland area, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, this was not coordinated. But he is a good story, and there are a lot of these. I mean, rosters full of long snappers that came out of the UFL, XFL, USFL. So yeah, I mean, there's value here, and I love what he's done, and it's really cool to see him playing for the Browns.
Fun fact: every member of the 2023 Brahmas specialist room has played in it. Not only been signed on the roster, but has played in an NFL game since the XFL or since the creation of the Brahmas in 2023. Brad Wing did it. John Parker Romo bet on himself, by the way, and then Rex.
Well, John Parker Romo, what little chance he did get in the NFL there recently. I mean, he showed what he could do. Is he back now?
I think he was futures.
Yeah. Okay. He's good. Yeah, you're right. And he bet on himself. And man, that guy, he was solid in the UFL, and I think he does have a future, no pun intended, in the NFL.
100%. This one, hey man, more snaps than me.
Right. Like, hey, 3 snaps, 1 game. That's 3 more snaps and 1 more game than we've ever been in. But it's the experience. I think that it means a lot. And again, they show their value. Whether it's he ends up on a practice squad, but he gets in there and has this opportunity. And it's good. I love it. I mean, again, we all know the big stories. We all know that. But these guys are creating value on the line down in the trenches where the games are won and lost.
Fun fact about him, he is the only bandit / showboats player to appear in a game over 3 years. So
he might
breaking
have been
the odds 100%.
Yeah, he might have been a shining star on the offensive line. Yeah.
Austin is this one's one of the better ones in my opinion.
Yeah, Kevin Austin is especially when he gets again, we talk about the opportunity and and going over 150 yards as a receiver, in with what's been going on with the Saints quarterbacks, that's pretty good. He was on the active roster to finish out the season. Again, we talk about value and we talk about putting good stuff on tape. I don't think, nothing against the UFL, but I don't think we're going to see Kevin Austin back down. I'd be surprised if it happened.
Not in 24 or excuse me, 25.
Yeah, right.
But I think what helped him out was that him and Rattler had that relationship in the twos.
True.
So when Rattler came in, he was his go-to guy because that's who he threw to in scout team. And I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, when you've got that chemistry and then you could transfer that from practice squad or on the field and then get it. And we did see it, actively on game days. So yeah, that's a really good point. They seems like they have built a chemistry. And if Spencer Rattler is the future of the Saints, which some people think that could be the case, Austin seems to be a very comfortable piece of the puzzle for him in that offense.
He'll be the future for at least 3 weeks, and then he'll be he'll be an Arlington Renegade or something in 27.
Could be.
Yeah. Another guy, I tell you what, man, the DC Defenders, they have the secret sauce for these receivers transitioning. I know it's only 1 game, 3 snaps, but Brandon Smith's an NFL player. Chris Blair's an NFL player. Yeah. Lucky Jackson's an NFL player. Kelvin Harmon's still on the practice squad. That's 4. I know Josh Hammond signed, and I feel like there's one other guy who signed as well. It's been like 6 or 7 receivers.
And you saw how valuable that like Lucky Jackson and those guys were when the DC offense seemed to struggle a little bit. But then they found their footing a little bit later on during the season last year. I know it wasn't the kind of season that they had hoped for, that we all thought they would have. But you're right. There's something in the water in DC. Well, they're not really there, but I guess they drink water while they're there. But there is something with that DC coaching staff that they know how to use those receivers, and it also helps that they got a pretty good quarterback there too.
Just a little bit. Still waiting on them. Still, we're not sure what's going on. But
Right.
Ty Scott was the other one from DC
Right.
to
Ty
have an
Scott.
NFL
Yeah.
opportunity, and then I think he made the practice squad and then got cut like 2 weeks in. But yeah, Brandon Smith, another guy, and he was offered a futures deal.
Yeah.
Another one, Deshaun White, Michigan Panther, 4 special team snaps, 4 more than you and me.
That's right. Were you surprised, Pat, that there weren't a few more Michigan Panthers that kind of made that jump? Or because to me it felt like that was a really talented team from top to bottom.
I thought with the woes in the secondary in Cincinnati, I thought we were going to see Nate Brooks get an opportunity. The wide receiver room in Indy stayed pretty healthy, which is why we didn't see DJ Montgomery again, but he was also offered a futures deal. There was a couple offensive linemen I thought, like Cole Cabral, I thought he was going to kind of sneak back in there again. Defensively, the usual suspects for me, Breland Speaks. I know he's older. He was a guy that I thought could probably like help a team, kind of like McCarron. Like some of these older guys, I think it comes down to them picking when they want to play. I thought Speaks was in that same spectrum, and then maybe TJ Carter and Daniel Wise getting bumped up into that defensive line rotation to somebody.
Yeah, it just felt like Michigan was right there, and I really did not know what to expect out of that team, and I underestimated that team early in the season last year. There was some talent there, but Deshaun White, gets in there, and God knows that San Francisco could use any kind of defensive help next year, especially. It's and maybe some offensive help as well, because that did not work out really well.
Yeah, and he sets himself up for success, especially for the next season. But overall, he's a USFL draft pick, so it kind of looks good for the brand as well.
Yep.
Ooh, kick that back just too far.
Yeah.
So far, this is who's left. Dalton, no practice squad yet. Harmon got a futures deal. Zach Johnson, a futures deal. And then everyone else but Dalton has gotten offered a futures deal.
Really thought that we would see. I wonder about Adrian Martinez, and I know obviously the Jets are going to have some quarterback questions to answer here pretty soon. I really thought we might see Adrian Martinez get a few snaps. I was disappointed that didn't happen, especially as bad as the Jets were, really all season.
I'm curious if Rodgers gets his 500 touchdown in week 17, if in week 18 they don't throw Martinez in, they just run a read option here or there.
Yeah.
That's what I thought they were going to do. If not, just elevate him as his bonus and then kind of move on from there.
Yeah. I wonder if did you say he has not gotten a futures contract
He
yet?
has.
Oh, he has. Okay. Which makes sense. I mean, his performance in the UFL last year was, although I think the championship game was not something that he expected. And, Matt Corral kind of came in there and saved them. But the body of work through the rest of the year, I mean, he was pretty incredible. And I really love seeing him go up.
Yeah. You definitely saw he's an athletic guy.
Yep.
But you also saw Matt Corral understands football more than him, because the all access they gave us, the see Matt Corral speak, I became a Matt Corral fan after that.
Yeah. He's a great story, number one, and he has been through a lot, and it seems like he's really gotten back on track. And I don't know if there would have been a better fit for Matt Corral to get to where he is. And I know he's coming back, but to be there with Skip Holtz, it just felt like that was a perfect match, for him personally and professionally.
4 years, 4 QBs, 4 championships. I'm
You,
I'm a homer for the Stallions as long as they keep changing their quarterback because I love
right.
I love the nonsense of it. If that team exists for 10 years and there's 10 different quarterbacks, like I want 10 rings with Jamar as the backup. So
At some point, Jamar's just got to say, like, listen, either start me or I got to do something else. But poor guy. But I could see that 10 years if Skip Holtz is there 10 years, and maybe he will be. Who knows? It seems like he loves it, even though you continue to hear his name kind of bubble up here and there.
100. Brandon Aubrey going into the class of 2023, 40 of 47, 30 of 30 on extra points. Pro Bowler continues to be the chairman of the board as far as with the spring football success, especially in the USFL class of 2023.
Yeah, he was the guy that I think kind of started it all. A buddy of mine is a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, and of course, it doesn't matter if the Dallas Cowboys are 17 and 1 or 1 and 17; they're going to be on national TV. So I got to watch a lot of the Cowboys, and every time he even a field goal or extra point, I just send him the USFL GIF every time. But yeah, he said, as a Cowboys fan, he's even like, let's keep going to the USFL or XFL or UFL if it's going to help our team. And Aubrey was certainly a bright spot for that Cowboys team that struggled this year.
100%. And it's always nice to have the postseason accolades as well, with the
Pro Bowl.
two-time Pro Bowler, even though, depending on how you feel, the Pro Bowl award is a lot more moot than it really was.
Yeah.
This one's a little disappointing. Khalil Davis, we saw a lot last year with Houston, and then this year when he went to Cincinnati, and then he went to the 49ers, kind of just tailed off the rotation.
Yeah, Khalil Davis has been around, I think, for a bit, and I do wonder if, either is he going to come back to the UFL? I don't know what his contract situation is. You probably have a whole.
He's an active roster, guys.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, if he's there, but is the opportunity there for him? I mean, he'll take the paycheck, I'm sure, but he can't. I don't think he can have another season like this and stay on.
He made about 1.6 million this year.
Okay. So yeah, he's not going to come back down to the UFL anytime soon if he doesn't have to. But you're right. I think it's got to be a different season for him next year.
Yeah, from his last season, I think he had like 33 tackles, 8 TFLs, 2 sacks. So this year, barely being able to crack the rotation, it hasn't been the best season for him.
Right.
Moving on, LeBron Ray. This is a guy who, once again, worked himself in the rotation, started some games, has had a injured left arm the majority of the year. Been a real fan of him, kind of cooled off towards the end of the season. But once again, another defensive lineman, former Philly star, making plays, 41 tackles this year, 1 sack. They've used him a lot in the 4-eye, 3 technique. You're just not sure if he comes back because of how bad Carolina was and do they revamp everything, but he's also going into his 3rd year on his contract, so that's probably going to be a 1.5 cap hit or something like that. You might keep him around as a cheaper option.
Yeah, I think there's probably an opportunity for him there, and it's too bad that, as you said, he kind of cooled off there because Carolina toward the end of the season started to actually look like a football team for a bit. So yeah, I would love to see him stick around, and that's the problem when, again, as we talk kind of about the double-edged sword, he's a defensive lineman, and those are the guys, where that is, again, in the trenches where games are won and lost. That might be a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. But we've seen, as we've talked about here already, and we'll talk about some more, they can go to a well for some depth on defensive line to the UFL. So, that can work to the advantage and disadvantage of some guys that are up there right now, especially ones who are hurt.
100%. I really like this story. We talked about betting on yourself a little bit. Yeah. Aaron Champlin is a guy who opted to sign a futures deal. He was in camp with the Steelers in 2023. didn't get signed during practice squad, nothing during the 2023 NFL season. Signs a futures deal in 2024, makes the practice squad, elevated to the active roster. Plays in 3 games, 118 all-purpose yards. First USFL running back to have a carry in this modern era.
And he can, put that one on his resume there. But, here's the thing is, it seemed like they were, and I'm trying to remember with what the running back room looked like there, with the Steelers. But
yeah, it was Najee Warren,
right.
excuse me, Jalen Warren,
Harris.
Najee Harris,
right,
and then Cordell.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So, listen, he's got it on his resume that he that he had a carry. Again, if he's on the active roster, I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Yeah.
Going into the playoffs, but either way, he's going to be on a playoff team.
Yeah, he could put that next to his Harvard degree.
Right, but you look too. He got with the return yardage, and there was one, and it was Caden Davis. Caden Davis, who was returning kicks, and I think he ended up with 107 yards kickoff return total, which was fourth on the team because of how the Browns kind of looked there. But yeah, I mean, return yard, any way you can find your way onto the field is good, and he's obviously done it.
This one's a sad story. I'm really hoping whoever comes in next year brings this guy back. But Josh Butler was a guy who grinded all on the practice squad 2023, makes his pro debut in 24, 5 games, 3 starts, had a 12 tackle game, finishes with 21 tackles and a sack, 5 pass deflections. He's on IR. There was a lot of good stuff. He is a bit older, but I mean, this is a dude that had 5 to 6 more games of opportunity to really show people like, hey, I belong in this league. But regardless, that man makes a lot of money on social media as well, so you can't get too sad for him. But his story is amazing.
Was that an ACL he had? And
yes.
So that's going to take some time. But when you look at, you have to think that the coaching staff there, or what it will be, you have to think that they've seen the spark and that it would be worth it, even if you put him on a practice squad just as he heals up and can be able to work him into the defense. But you're right. I mean, he looked so sharp early, and it was one of those again. He doing good things. Had that sack. I sent the gift to my buddy, but the Cowboys. I think they can use him, but they have to see the value and hopefully the potential value that he has.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know his story, but he got kind of famous because of he had these dogs that he had, and like they walked him out because both his parents passed away during his senior year of his senior year at Michigan State. So like the fact that Josh is out there crushing it, I mean, to me, it's a feel good story in my opinion. A lot of value that I think he brings as well. Yeah.
And that's we can't even try to imagine that situation, but you got to think of the mental toughness that goes along with that too. So it seems like an easy guy to cheer for.
100%. Moving down the list, there's your guy, man. I had to get that picture of him, by the way, from his dad's Twitter.
No kidding.
His dad's a big supporter of him,
right?
Which makes sense. But another guy, he was a mid-season signing for the Michigan Panthers last year. Really kind of took over Marcus Sims' role, Division II guy from Northwest Missouri State. All the stereotypical like lunch pail gritty, all that stuff, but able to grind through. Was with the Cardinals on their practice squad, was with the Broncos on their practice squad, and a couple things just went to the left, to the right, and worked out for him. And NFL football player, 3 years into the league.
And as you said, like brought off the practice squad, I think, and was able to do something with it. And if you'll remember, it's kind of like, I don't really want to compare the two, but I'll compare the situation. it's kind of like Cavante Turpin. He worked his way onto the field with the Cowboys as a kickoff return guy, and then they started to kind of work him into the offense because they saw his athleticism and his skill level. And I got to think that Caden Davis could be one of those guys too. He found his way on the field as a kickoff returner, and again, he ended up being fourth in kickoff returns for the Browns. So, I'm like you. I think he's as you said, he's the gritty guy, and he can really get out there. And if he can get a quarterback that can throw to him, he might be all right in the offense.
John, we just got some breaking.
Hit me on some breaking news.
Iowa State linebacker Mike Rose is coming back for one more go around.
All right.
Yep. Houston released a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Again, they like to do that.
Right.
But Mike Rose coming back. So a nice break in the action right there.
You got some breaking news there, brother.
Yeah. Well, they haven't signed Willie Harvey and they haven't signed Lakeem Williams. So
all right.
Mike Rose can give us 6 great games of all pro play and be hurt. I don't know.
Be a little optimistic here, Pat. Come on.
Yeah, right. And these are the only 2 guys who didn't get any action. We talked about Magoo, late signing, still managed to keep himself relevant. And then DJ Montgomery, he was signed to a futures deal. Obviously Magoo, the Packers are still in the playoffs. So I have a question for you. It was middle of the year. Magoo works out for the Giants, and he worked out with Tim Boyle. Do you feel like Magoo said nah?
I mean, I wouldn't think so. I would think that he's trying to catch on, as a quarterback. I think they probably would have liked to have said maybe we should have kept him even on the practice squad or whatever, because what a disaster that was. Maybe it worked out for the best for him. If he wants to really, switch positions and stay a wide receiver, but it's not really worked into his favor so far as, he's still on the practice squad. Such a fun quarterback to watch. Seems like he has a lot of heart, but I'm pulling for these guys. If they want to be on an NFL roster and be a switch positions to be on a practice squad, that's fine. But your conspiracy theory there about him just saying, I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't know. It seems like he would have wanted to really seize that chance, and I think he would have been a lot better than what the Giants had on that roster.
Worst case, you just have him run around back there and just stay alive.
And he could definitely do that.
Yeah, 100%. Going into the class of 2023 for the XFL, now punters are people too, but what a lot of people don't realize is Dan Whalen is doing this in Green Bay. He is punting in Green Bay, and he's still having a pretty good season. Pat McAfee had a lot of good things to say about him as well, but overall, 46 yards a punt, not a bad shtick.
Yeah, and that's, as you mentioned, it really is. That's a tough place to play, especially as a specialist on, kickoff, punt, or whatever. So yeah, and he's held on, and again, it shows the value of being able to come up and play on that level. And punters are people too, and I think that's a great story. And he is doing well in a place that is that can sometimes eat kickoff, or special teams players alive.
Yep, Ramiz Ahmad wasn't about that in 2022. Right. He got hurt during warmups.
Yes, it's easy to do when it's the wind chill and the snow and everything else up there.
100%. Chris Blair, he got bumped up to the active roster towards the end. Was able to get his first reception. Not to get too much into him, but still on that DC Defenders pipeline.
Yeah.
You would like to think with him and Penix coming back next year, maybe he's able, because of their chemistry, to kind of keep him back around. But appeared in 4 games, 5 games total in his career. Looking good for the DC Defenders.
Yeah, you're right. There's something about the defenders and wide receivers. And, I think that there's a good chance that this with Penix more than likely being the full-time starter next year, they're going to start to build that offense around him. And it seems like Blair would be such a good weapon in that, especially if he plays at the level that he played with DC and can transfer those skills up with Atlanta.
100%. CJ Brewer, kind of the Khalil Davis category.
Right.
Came on pretty strong, was in the rotation, had a 2-sack game, and then I don't think he really played the last 3 years. I think he's a guy you got to look out for as far as being on the chopping block. Still pretty young. He's a class of 22 guy, but that's the defensive line pipeline has its highs and it has its lows.
Yeah, yeah, there's a pool of players out there from a lot of different levels, but yeah, you're right. I'd like to see a little bit more from him. And again, you know how these contracts work, but I do wonder if there might be some opportunities for guys who are not under contract if they would really want to go back to the UFL and maybe get some more tape, and if they're not on a practice squad. Or I just hate to see, like, there's so much talent out there, and this is an opportunity. I'd hate to see a lot of them, maybe just kind of give it up, or
Well,
I made my 600,000. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, maybe. But I will challenge this, John. That's a lot of wear and tear on your body. Like, he
No
went
question.
through 12 NFL games, NFL training camp, and then you're like, "Hey, man, what are you doing in February?"
Well, it's funny. Some people might remember the other UFL and Michael Hugh, who was the commissioner. He always said spring football will never work. That's why, if you'll remember the old UFL in the mid 2000s, they actually played a fall schedule. They just didn't play against the NFL, because he said the wear and tear on the bodies of a lot of these players, you just can't make it work from spring football and then go straight into an NFL camp and have a lot of success. Because I think he felt like the guys who went from spring football that went into the NFL and had success were the outliers. They were the exceptions rather than the rules. And I think what you bring up a good point, especially when you're a lineman, like, we need you to do this and do this and do this all winter long, and spring, and summer, fall, winter, and then training camp starts here next month. So are you ready? That could be tough.
I think the 2023 XFL schedule was the best way to do it for those guys.
Starting in February.
Yeah, maybe not a week after, maybe 2, but I know there's football hangover, maybe, especially with all these bowl games and whatnot. And if you're a real sicko like me, you're watching the Division 2 games and Division 3 games.
Right.
But
you are sick.
Yeah. No, I gotta be. But I just feel like it does not help these guys the guys who didn't take part in the NFL season.
Yeah. I can see that. To me, selfishly as a fan, I wish the UFL would wait until after the NCAA tournament to kick off. Wait a couple of weeks and then do it. But you're right. Then you start to maybe start to bleed into training camp start, and these guys who need the opportunity won't get the opportunity because they're either, they're in the playoffs or championship in the UFL.
Another defensive lineman.
Right. There are a few.
Yeah. Had a sack this weekend. 2 years with the squad. Did pretty well. Practice squad guy. Hasn't been offered a futures deal yet.
Yeah. Maybe there's enough there and he can have some more workouts where he catches on somewhere else. Because don't you think that there is just going to be a complete house cleaning with the Jets? Like, it feels that way to me.
I mean, who's signing these futures deal? Like, who's offering them? Joe Douglas ain't there.
Right, exactly. It's like they've got to get a front office. They probably are going to have to get a quarterback. They're going to have to get a coach. I mean, it's just, guys like, Bruce Hector, I think they're going to be in limbo here for a while.
Yeah, I could see him coming through.
Yeah,
he's one I could see coming through, just kind of dealing with the pain. Unfortunately,
right.
Maybe if he can get a deal where he doesn't have to go to camp, essentially, comes in the last 2 weeks and just because that's a lot. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's no question. It's a lot, and there's just so many questions with the Jets right now. That's the thing.
Run away
far.
We talked about JPR, but he did get futures dealed with the New England Patriots, which they're in there. I wouldn't say they're in flux because I think they're going to hire Vrabel. I don't think you fire Mayo and not hire Vrabel.
Yeah.
But I know they got Joey Sly there now, 11 of 12, 7 of 8. I would argue he should have stayed in Minnesota over Will Reichard,
Yeah.
but that's just me.
And let's see, he came in when Riker was hurt, and
Yes.
then he got sent packing, I guess. But yeah, you're right. I think there's opportunities for guys like JPR, right? And a practice squad kicker, that's fine, because as you know, it's next man up. And when you're kicking in New England, kind of like Green Bay, there might be some opportunity for you. There's going to be some kind of injury or pulled muscle or something there. I mean, Adam Vinatieri is not walking through that door.
No. Or Steven Goskowski.
Yeah, sure, there, right.
Yeah, what a pipeline. What
yeah, true.
Because I think they had Nick Folk there a little bit.
He might have been.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just a lot of random jabronis when it comes down to kickers and whatnot.
They're people too now, Pat. Come on.
Yeah, I know, but I love when they get cut from the UFL and then they're like on the workout cycle of like, oh, you weren't good enough, but you are. But I don't know. Great special teams battery by the Brahmas in 2023, 2024, or excuse me, 2025. Not so much.
Yeah, that what an incredible stat you had there that they all got in there.
Yep. These are the guys who are on the rosters right now as season finishes. Lucky still there. London, who was arguably the most successful Battlehawk in 23, he was not offered a futures deal. Bandy's still in it. Heflin's still in it. Danucci was offered a futures deal, and so was Luke Barku.
Danucci and continuing to hold on and to be there, it's just good for him. I really thought that he was kind of done, but it keeps happening for him. Lucky Jackson is kind of a surprise. I thought he was. I had an opportunity to follow him and cover him at Western Kentucky University, and I just thought that guy is like he's a next level player, and he was in a good offense that worked out for him too. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a lot more action this coming year.
Did he have Zappy or was he Daughtry?
He see, I think he was probably at the end. He might have been the end of Brandon Dowdy.
Yeah, Brandon Dowdy, I thought was cool because he had a sleeve. I was like, yeah, this guy's a cool guy.
Dude, that guy was so fun to watch, and they had running that offense. And it was incredible.
Brandon Dougherty walked so Bailey Zappi could run.
And let me tell you something. When Bailey Zappi walked in there, we're all like, the who and the what, and then that guy just turned it on too. And I was happy to see him, get some, even though it was, kind of junk time. It was good to see him get some play here at the end of the season.
Oh yeah, Brandon Zappi to me is a guy I could kind of see in the spring league like 6 years from now, but I think he's still very capable to be a QB2.
I think I'm surprised it didn't work out for him in New England, but nothing was working out at that time in New England. Yeah.
No, you would have thought that they would have kept Zappi over Brissett. Nothing against Brissett. It's just like, I don't know. It is what it is. But Joe Milton's the guy there now, man. Even though
Joe Milton the third, he was blowing it up.
Oh my God. Like I think Drake May played a lot better than people thought, but they got something in Joe Milton, man. Like Joe Milton's gonna be fun to watch for someone.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might not be New England, but he will be fun to watch somewhere, no doubt. If that week 18 or whatever it was any indication.
Oh yeah, the back half of preseason game, I love it.
Yeah, and that's a good way to put it. But Zappi, when he got in the actual preseason games with New England, man, he looked really good. I mean, I know it's preseason, but talent's talent.
Yeah, but I mean, like asking any quarterback to be good on the Browns is very hard, unless it's Joe Flacco.
Right.
Yeah, their franchise quarterback bounce out. Right. Very unique one here, by the way. Luke Barku was not on any roster. Got cut in June by the Steelers. Was a late practice squad signing, and looked good enough to keep around. Apparently.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, what is his story, and why do you think that happened?
Oh man, I have no idea.
Yeah,
Maybe Al Harris likes him.
yeah, could
Like,
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something to look into because kind of he was I thought a talent, and it just was weird that he got cut.
Yeah, I don't know why he got cut. I mean, obviously Tomlin has a good relationship with Joey Porter,
Yeah,
um, who was there with Tomlin at some point. Hines Ward was the Brahmas coach in 23.
makes
So the
sense.
connection is all there. Porter was on the Brahmas staff as well. Was with them in all of the practice squad in 23. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm glad
Yeah,
he's a 4.5 A player to me.
he's not a 4A, but he's not quite at that level, right?
I don't need to see him in the spring leagues.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
him. He's good. He's going to be
right.
a top 5 corner, and after that it's like, okay, kind of go to the NFL or not, man. It's just
Right.
like, if you want, I feel like he's a smart enough guy. He can make more than $60,000 a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, like,
He was a talent. Now it seems
yeah,
like that would translate up another level.
yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
He's got an opportunity, and that's all that matters.
Right, right.
Class of 2022 for the USFL. Micah Abernathy. This is a guy I thought he was going to go into that Elijah Campbell mold, and then he ended up on IR.
Yeah, that's injuries were tough for
Yeah.
him, but I mean, still, 6 appearances, 6 more than we got, and we're healthy.
Yep. My back hurts today. I had
Well,
to shovel a little bit.
I mean, I'm old. I feel you on that.
Long snapper.
Yeah. Hey, Pro Bowler.
He got
Backup.
selected?
I think I think he ended up like a backup Pro Bowler.
Okay.
So, but it's all, for Brony he was the spring league player, I think, back in the day, and he signed I think it was a 3-year, $2.5 million contract. So you get that. Those are the again, opportunities. Laugh all you want, but people need linemen and long snappers. There's value there.
Making a lot of money. 5 special team tackles.
Right, there you go.
This is the guy.
Yeah, that's the gold standard.
Yep. 2-time Pro Bowler. Over 3,000 career all-purpose yards now, and this year we actually saw him pop, and I felt like they left a bunch in the tank personally.
Yeah. Well, and they kind of look at the quarterback situation there too. But when you do see, obviously he got put into the offense a little bit more. He wasn't just a kickoff return guy. 420 receiving yards was more than I thought he had. So that's good. And the rush yards probably putting him, I guess those were sweeps or whatever. But he's so athletic and so quick, and we saw that quickness on so many kickoff returns. I just love it for him that not only does this continue his career, I think this is one of the guys who is a second chance guy and is trying to do what he can to professionally and personally to keep it going here in his football career.
And what I really liked, and I wrote an article about this in week 1, was he needed to do more on the actual offense, because I hate saying this, but return guys pop here and there. They show up, they do a little bit of good stuff, and then they hit the ripe age of 24, and then you can get a cheaper one. And I hate saying that, but it's the reality. The fact that he was able to actually get on the field, and I think he was behind Tolbert in receiving yards. I would have really liked to see him a little bit more. It's funny because anytime you saw him on Twitter, if you typed in his name on Twitter after he made a play, people are like, "Man, we should really give Cavante Turpin the ball more."
Yeah. How about that? But I was happy to see that they worked him in more, and whatever the situation ends up being in Dallas, and assuming he's still there, and if it doesn't work in Dallas, that guy can be a weapon for someone. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
100%. No, he made his bones this year. Definitely a 2-year contract type of guy. He is a free agent now. It's been 3 years since he was a New Jersey General. Yep.
Seems like
Time
just
flies.
yesterday. It really does.
Another success story, Pittsburgh Mauler, NAIA guy.
Yep.
33 tackles, 2 sacks, Jeremiah Farms.
I was just looking a little bit about him just recently. It's like there's another guy, a defensive lineman who not just, he wasn't a camp body. He came up and has been, doing work on the next level. The UFL is a talent pool for, all these NFL teams, and they continue to show. And you're right, he is another success story down there in the trenches.
100%.
Yeah.
Another long snapper this year. He's not on the roster, but he's kind of your 33rd long snapper, Tucker Addington.
Well, I think it was Greg Parks who said, "Is there really a big difference between the best one and the worst one in the league?"
I'm sure there is.
Well, and there might be. I'm taking
Yeah.
nothing away. That's a skill. There's no question. As they say, long snappers have to see the world upside down. But there's opportunities there. Yeah, I was another guy that I think you might be able to see somewhere here.
100%. This one was a late one. Maurice Alexander was cut during camp, came back, was their return guy, and now back on the practice squad. Really, Khalif Raymond kind of took this role away from him. He might be a guy we see come back after their playoff run, man. They got rid of him once. They'll probably get rid of him again, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's just so many offensive weapons that the Lions have. And so I don't know what his body of work has been. You saw, like, obviously got on their special teams with punt returns.
Yeah.
That whole receiver room just seems stacked there. And that's one of the reasons the Lions are where they are this year.
Yeah, it's sad, but 3 good years there, man.
Yeah.
Like 3 good years, 3 years of NFL paychecks. And this is the Lone Ranger right here, man. Dominique Davis got 2 elevations this year, including week 18. He has not been offered a futures deal. Out of UNC Pembroke, he was a Houston Gambler, a part of that stud Houston Gambler defense in 22.
And that, God bless the Gamblers, like what they should be back, but whatever. That is a different podcast, different video. But yeah, that he's the one guy who has continued to hang on there. And it's interesting. It seems like, there's a place for him in Cincinnati. If that's you said he got released, but
he's been activated, released, went to Pitt, released, and back on Cincinnati practice squad.
I got you. Well, so they do obviously see something in him then.
Yep.
So maybe that's a good thing.
Yep. The 2020 class of XFL guys, really no one popping out as far as just reliables at this point, earning their $12 million.
You're right. I was going to say Christian Kuntz there signed a 3-year deal, $3.7 million. So, not too bad. Good for him on that one. Josh Johnson, I mean, that guy played in the other UFL. He is
Sacramento Mountain Lions.
That's exactly. Taylor Heineke. I don't think Taylor Heineke ever took a snap for the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Nope.
And now he is still in 2020, and he's still in the league. And I mean, and we've seen some good things out of him too.
Yep. He's a winning quarterback, I think.
Yeah.
I think his record, I think he's like at 13-12 or something like that. Elijah Campbell, special teams ace. That's kind of how I view Micah Abernathy. Michael Dunn continues to be a reserve guard. Donald Parham, I think, had his day. He's kind of on the back end. Storm Norton, reserve tackle. Tyree Jackson, practice squad guy. I mean, just these are the names we're going to get used to saying for probably the next 3 years.
Scott Daly, another long snapper that made $1 million. So opportunities there.
Yep. And then going to the AAF.
Wow. All right.
Yep. The best one on this one, Alex Barrett. Yep. He had a 4-year lull from playing in a game. He was on their practice squad constantly, but the last 2 weeks kind of got elevations. I think he got signed to the active roster and might have made himself a couple more dollars. And then Brunskill is starting, Young Ho Koo, Nick Folk, both consistent kickers. Dearness Johnson still there. Logan Woodside, no futures deal yet. As soon as someone gets hurt, I'm sure they'll bring him back. And then John Wolford on the Jacksonville practice squad right now.
I did not know that John Wolford was still in the league. He was an Arizona hotshot, I think, is what. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it seems like Logan Woodside, played for the Bengals, was either on the practice squad, and then went to the AAF, and then I think he went back to the Bengals. I think there was he went Bengals, then spring football, and then back to the Bengals.
Bengals, spring football, the Titans, played a little
Titans,
bit,
that's right. Yeah, he
and
did. That's
then
right.
followed Arthur Smith to Atlanta.
He's very well traveled, but
Beat
you're
out
right.
Rocky Lombardi.
Yeah, that's right. You've been all around, but yeah, I think you're right. If there's any injuries in the quarterback room in Cincinnati, they'll bring him back because they've seen something in him for a while.
This is the final breakdown
All right.
For the 2025 or 2024 season of this class. Michigan leading the way. Any surprises here?
Well, I thought that I'd ask you when we started here, I thought there might have been more Michigan Panthers that were in the leagues, but yeah, they led the way there. And 5 for Memphis, that what a tough season that, they had. And honestly, I really thought your Renegades there, I thought it was going to be 8 with Luis Perez, but I am glad to see that he is coming back, selfishly coming back to the UFL for at least another year.
Yeah, no, he's definitely one for the boys, as they say.
Right.
Just a couple names after cut days that have grace rosters and whatnot. Nothing too crazy over here. A couple of these guys have decided to come back. A couple of them with futures deals right now, like Andre Smith. But as we close out the 2024 NFL regular season, we end up with a 75.
Hey, so again, if that are you talking about from 2019 to?
Oh, no. That's how many signings from the UFL class of 2024.
That's what I thought, because I thought that what I'd read was about 19%, coming out of there. And I tell you, it is, again, I'm not a shill for the UFL. I'm a fan. Obviously, we've been sitting in here. I'm sitting in my basement talking to you for an hour about UFL stuff. But it is a league of opportunity. And, whether it's long snapper or if it's a defensive lineman or, up to whatever skill position you want to say, obviously special teams has been big too. I think that's pretty cool. And I'm glad that you broke that down, because I don't think a lot of people know that there are 75 UFL players in the NFL. I think even the hardest core NFL fans might not know that. They'll hear every once in a while an announcer will point it out, like, he came from the UFL. But I think it's a good story, and usually those announcers are the ones. Although I'll give Mike Tirico credit, he talks about the UFL sometimes, and they were not a UFL outlet this past season.
I mean, all you got to do is just a little bit of homework. It takes 6 minutes sometimes.
And they've got producers and everything.
Yeah, right. I do like it when they say like the USFL teams were the XFL or the XFL teams were the USFL. I find that hilarious.
Right.
Because there's someone in a basement that's losing their mind.
Right here in this basement.
But John, thank you so much, man. I'm pretty
man.
pumped. We only did an hour, so not too much time and whatnot. A little bit of technical difficulties starting out, but we figured it out.
We made it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but it was good. I think it's good to just visualize all this. We're going to do team breakdowns as the season goes, or the preseason creeps up and whatnot. I don't know, John. What do you want to wrap it up as?
Well, Pat, I always appreciate, talking to you. A lot of times we talk offline too, and it's exciting to do this, and it's exciting that it's going to be here before we know it. It's going to feel like we're into the NFL playoffs now, which is one of my favorite times a year. Mm-hmm. But also, in years past, it's just been like, there's fewer games this week and fewer games, and then you get the Super Bowl, which is always exciting, and then there was that dead spot. Well, we don't have that anymore. We only have to wait about a month or so, and then we're right back at it. And there's going to be a lot of, hopefully, preseason hype for the UFL this year, because I think there is a lot to look forward to with this league this year.
100%. And John, I appreciate it. You guys got to check out John on his YouTube channel, John Lewis Sports. It's one of the best channels, and you can't really see it behind him now. He's changed the studio up, but he has an amazing collection of footballs behind him.
Yeah, they're like right over there.
Yeah. I got, John, can you see mine? I got that's a game ball.
Oh, sweet.
From the Vegas Nighthawks.
Nice. The Vegas Nighthawks.
Let's do it, man. I
love it.
I'm all in. I also have a jersey from them too. They gave me a jersey.
You are a Vegas Nighthawks super fan. That is awesome.
Yeah. No, season ticket holder. I don't even live in Vegas anymore. But John, thank you once again, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you say you're coming to St. Louis, and then me saying I'm going to see you, and then me canceling because I have to work.
That is usually what happens. But let me tell you something. My wife has agreed on our 11th anniversary, which is May 17th. She's agreed to go to the Battlehawks game that kicks off at noon on Saturday.
Okay.
But she did say, even she said it last night, I can't believe I agreed to this. But she did say I better get a good dinner, so I'm going to need some restaurant recommendations from 100%. You for May 17th.
I am thinking about going to the Memphis game, the Memphis Battle. If you're going to go to that,
I'll be there.
Yeah, you're gonna.
That's the plan.
Okay. Yeah, you might have to work though.
Oh no, that's Birmingham, right? Yeah. I think May 17th might be the Birmingham game. Whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. But John, thank you so much for coming on, guys. Appreciate you guys watching. If you're new here, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Makes me feel good. Helps me pay my electric bill. But guys, thank you and see you on the flip side.